1940s birth decade. Individuals born in the 1940s developed during Reconstruction-centered environments that emphasize cooperation, institutional trust, and coordinated responsibility across families and communities, rebuilding long-term stability after global disruption. Early exposure to systems where shared effort influenced survival strengthened bonding pathways connected to oxytocin regulation and cooperative planning behavior across adulthood. One hidden advantage of this decade is reinforced coordination intelligence. When development occurs in environments that reward teamwork rather than isolated competition, the brain strengthens trust-based reasoning networks that support stability during complex decision-making situations later in life. Exposure to expanding transportation systems, structured education access, and civic infrastructure also strengthened systems navigation ability that supported confidence inside institutions as societies modernized rapidly. Educational structures emphasized reliability, attendance, and continuity of effort, reinforcing persistent circuitry linked to long-term goal tracking in the prefrontal cortex. Evolutionarily, humans survived most effectively inside coordinated groups where individuals depended on shared effort to maintain safety and access to resources. Individuals from this decade often demonstrate persistence during long-term projects, reliability within leadership structures requiring patience, and the ability to stabilize environments where cooperation determines success across workplaces, families, and community systems. 1950s birth decade. Being born in the 1950s meant developing during a period when household predictability increased while communication technologies expanded through broadcast media entering everyday life. This combination strengthened both confidence regulation pathways and large-scale cultural pattern recognition systems simultaneously. One hidden advantage of this decade is balanced optimism architecture. Environments combining predictability with expanding opportunity strengthen dopamine motivation systems without overwhelming stress response circuits, supporting steady long-term goal pursuit across adulthood. Exposure to shared broadcast experiences also strengthened the brain's ability to interpret expectations across large populations rather than only within local communities. Educational environments during this decade increasingly emphasize structured progression and mastery-based learning, reinforcing persistence habits that supported consistent performance across multiple career stages. Exposure to stable household routines also strengthens circadian regulation consistency, improving long-term energy management and planning reliability. Evolutionarily, predictable environments allowed humans to explore innovation safely without increasing threat sensitivity. Individuals from this decade often demonstrate confidence navigating structured organizations, consistency maintaining direction across career transitions, and flexibility integrating gradual technological change across multiple life stages. 1960s birth decade. Individuals born in the 1960s developed during one of the fastest cultural transition periods in modern history, strengthening neural flexibility connected to identity formation and perspective integration across changing environments. Childhood exposure to shifting expectations trained the brain to interpret change as information rather than danger, improving adaptability across adulthood transitions. One hidden advantage of this decade is strengthened tolerance for complexity. When environments evolve rapidly during development, the brain becomes more comfortable evaluating competing viewpoints without losing decision stability. Exposure to expanding global awareness through broadcast communication also strengthened recognition of diverse social environments beyond local communities earlier than previous generations experienced. Educational shifts toward discussion-based learning and exploratory reasoning strengthened perspective-taking pathways that improved collaboration across different viewpoints later in life. These experiences strengthened cognitive flexibility networks linking the prefrontal cortex and anterior cingulate cortex, which support adaptive strategy switching. Evolutionarily, humans who adapted quickly to environmental variation preserved survival advantages during migration and climate shifts. Individuals from this decade often demonstrate strong comfort navigating uncertainty and adjusting strategies across rapidly changing professional and social expectations. 1970s birth decade. Being born in the 1970s positioned individuals between mechanical childhood environments and digital adulthood infrastructure, strengthening cross-era learning flexibility that remains valuable during technological transition. One hidden advantage of this decade is dual-mode reasoning strength. Early exposure to hands-on troubleshooting environments strengthened tactile problem-solving pathways before automation simplified many systems, while later exposure to computing strengthened symbolic reasoning networks connected to abstraction and pattern recognition. Educational environments during this period often required independent experimentation and manual skill development, reinforcing confidence solving unfamiliar problems without relying immediately on automated assistance. Exposure to early consumer electronics also strengthened interface curiosity and technical confidence before full digital automation arrived. Evolutionarily, humans benefited most from environments requiring both tool interaction and pattern detection simultaneously. Individuals from this decade often demonstrate strong troubleshooting confidence, resilience learning unfamiliar systems, and stability adapting across technological transitions that require integrating both practical and abstract thinking skills across evolving workplaces. 1980s. Birth decade. Individuals born in the 1980s developed alongside the expansion of personal computing and early global communication networks that strengthened rapid learning circuitry connected to information navigation across multiple formats. One hidden advantage of this decade is interface adaptation speed. Exposure to emerging digital systems during childhood strengthened working memory coordination because the brain learned to manage layered information streams across physical and digital environments simultaneously. Early familiarity with both analog and digital communication styles strengthened flexibility, interpreting signals across multiple contexts, improving collaboration across generations later in life. Educational exposure to early computing environments strengthened experimentation confidence when interacting with unfamiliar technologies and reduced hesitation toward technical learning challenges. These experiences strengthened attentional switching pathways that support multitask coordination across modern work environments. Evolutionarily, environments requiring rapid signal interpretation strengthened prediction accuracy, and early computing exposure recreated those adaptation conditions cognitively. Individuals from this decade often demonstrate strong confidence learning unfamiliar tools quickly and adapting efficiently across industries, requiring continuous technological adjustment. 1990s birth decade. Being born in the 1990s meant developing alongside the expansion of internet-based communication into everyday life, strengthening distributed cognition pathways that support collaborative reasoning across multiple information sources simultaneously. One hidden advantage of this decade is network integration thinking. Individuals from this generation learned early how to evaluate information across multiple channels rather than relying on single authorities, improving verification accuracy and coordination across teams. Exposure to global communication environments also strengthened cross-cultural interaction flexibility earlier than previous generations typically experienced. Educational systems increasingly incorporated digital research tools during this period, strengthening independent information navigation skills that improve learning efficiency later in life. These experiences strengthened pattern recognition pathways associated with filtering high-volume information environments effectively. Evolutionarily, humans benefited from extended social networks that increased access to shared knowledge and protection strategies. Individuals from this decade often demonstrate strong collaboration ability and confidence, navigating complex communication ecosystems requiring both speed and accuracy. 2000s birth decade. Individuals born in the 2000s developed during constant multimedia exposure that strengthened rapid visual processing systems and flexible communication pathways earlier than previous generations experienced. One hidden advantage of this decade is accelerated symbolic interpretation speed. Continuous interaction with layered digital environments train neural pathways to interpret motion signals, icons, and interface structures quickly and efficiently. Exposure to interactive educational platforms strengthened rapid feedback adaptation systems connected to motivation and experimentation behavior earlier in development than previous generations experienced. These learning conditions strengthened visual spatial reasoning pathways that improve navigation across interface-based environments common in modern education and careers. Evolutionarily, environments requiring quick interpretation of movement improved survival readiness, and digital media recreated similar cognitive demands. Individuals from this decade often demonstrate strong adaptability across platforms. confidence navigating fast-changing communication environments, and efficiency learning through visual pattern recognition strategies across academic and professional environments. 2010's birth decade. Being born in the 2000s placed individuals inside fully integrated digital ecosystems from early childhood, strengthening intuitive interaction with layered systems earlier than any previous generation experienced. One hidden advantage of this decade is early systems integration awareness. The brain develops expectations that tools and communication operate across interconnected platforms rather than isolated environments, improving adaptation to emerging technologies throughout life. Exposure to interactive learning environments strengthen curiosity-driven exploration pathways connected to flexible memory formation and experimentation, confidence earlier in development than previous generations experienced. These experiences strengthened rapid interface learning pathways that improve comfort navigating unfamiliar systems without extended training time. Evolutionarily, curiosity improves survival in unfamiliar environments by encouraging exploration before threat escalation occurred. Individuals from this decade often demonstrate strong comfort navigating complex systems and adjusting quickly when technologies update rapidly across education and communication environments. 2020's birth decade. Individuals born in the 2020s are developing during an era shaped by adaptive learning systems and intelligent technologies that strengthen revision-based learning pathways earlier in development than previous generations experienced. One hidden advantage of this decade is cognitive updating flexibility. Instead of relying on static memorization structures, the brain becomes comfortable adjusting expectations continuously as new information appears. Exposure to intelligent learning platforms strengthens experimentation, confidence, and pattern recognition pathways connected to prediction and strategy revision earlier than previous generations experienced. Early familiarity with responsive digital environments also strengthens comfort interacting with evolving tools rather than fixed systems. These developmental conditions strengthen anticipatory learning pathways associated with forecasting and adaptive planning ability. Evolutionarily, groups that updated strategies quickly survived environmental change more successfully than groups relying on fixed responses. Individuals from this decade are likely to demonstrate strong adaptability navigating rapidly evolving information systems across education, collaboration, and communication environments. These conditions also encourage early comfort with uncertainty, allowing developing learners to treat change as a normal feature of progress rather than disruption. This strengthens adaptive confidence and supports long-term flexibility across education, communication environments, and future workplace collaboration systems. Keep learning, keep embracing what makes you unique, subscribe and explore the science that makes you extraordinary.